Steve Young was almost like a unicorn, really. He was fast, he was accurate, he could throw deep, and he was left-handed.
You got a young guy pushing you in town now, Steve Young. He's had some success on the team. Tell me about your relationship with Steve.
We both respect each other's ability, and but yet we're friends about it. I have to help him, he has to help me.
He was such a running quarterback that there were actually people who wanted to convert him to a full-time running back.
People look at Steve Young and he's this polished, well-coiffed lawyer. He has a law degree, he wears a suit, but he's a great athlete.
When NFL legends talk about quarterbacks who mastered both mind and body, the name Steve Young always rises to the top. They remember the left-handed rocket, the fearless scrambler, the quiet competitor who studied the game like a scientist and attacked it like a warrior. Legends say Young proved greatness isn't about replacing a hero, it's about becoming one. And when the moment was biggest under the lights of Super Bowl XXIX, he delivered a performance for the ages. This is NFL greatness through the eyes of legends. This is the story of Steve Young.
He was a lefty, and he can run with the football, he can throw with the football. He did all these exciting things that I wanted to do. And the way he played his game was the way I wanted to play my game. You know, and I looked at Steve, and I even used to wear number 8 before I started wearing number 7. So, you know, Steve was my idol growing up, man. And, you know, he's done some wonderful things in his career and some things that I want to accomplish at the same time. You know, just listening to him, you know, it's very inspiring. And you learn a lot of things. And, you know, he told us, you know, so many things, how to run the offense, how to run a 2-minute drill, when to get rid of the ball, when not to get rid of the ball, make plays, you know, is the most important thing. And it was just exciting, just sitting there listening. I'm like, this is a guy that I idolized growing up, and he's sitting here now telling me, you know, what I can do to better myself and make my game better.
In my career against Steve Young, it's mostly in my favor, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. When I was with Atlanta, I was a third-string guy. I know Steve Young had no idea who Brett Favre was, but we played out there. I was so impressed by his performance that day. We won the game, but he just would not quit. So from that day forward, I mean, I knew this guy was good. Anytime Steve Young has the ball in his hands, anything can happen.
Joe Montana and we had such chemistry, man. If Joe was a female, we would have dated because the chemistry was just that good. Now, then also you had Steve Young to come along, and I was able to put up outstanding numbers with Steve Young. And through all the quarterbacks that I went through, I was able to adjust, you know, to their strengths. You know, like Montana, I knew Montana wouldn't hold on to the ball that long. And if I ran my routes, I knew the ball was halfway in the air. And with Steve Young was more of a running quarterback at first, but then he wanted to become that pocket passer. And we were able to do great things. So Jeff Garcia and, you know, Steve Bono, the list just goes on and on. I was always able to adjust to whoever was behind center and brought out the best in them. But if I had to pick one, it probably would be Joe Montana, because we had great chemistry.
From practice fields to prime time, legends remember how Steve Young turned doubt into dominance. Teammates from the San Francisco 49ers talk about the hours of film, the bruising scrambles, and the quiet fire that never faded. Every snap was proof that greatness is earned, not inherited.
If it's not enough to follow in a legend's footsteps, for Steve Young, for a long time, the knock on him was that he can't win the big one. That's not the classic end of the game comeback. But I think when you talk about quarterbacks and their place in the game, that kind of put the stamp on Steve Young's comeback.
And Steve, who's a great guy, that's not necessarily, that's not in his wheelhouse. His wheelhouse is, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, unbelievable. But if you said, okay, you're in the OK Corral, you got 2 bullets. Steve's probably sitting there, maybe, you know, throwing a little politician on you, you know? He might politic a little bit before you know, where Joe's gonna say, okay, let's do it. And by the way, he's gonna say, let's do it, I'm faster. You know, that's 2 different guys with 2 different makeup.
Remember when Steve Young's career ended, he was the #1 rated quarterback in NFL history. The great thing about Steve Young was his ability to perform in the clutch a lot more than people thought he did. At that point, he had never beaten Brett Favre or the Packers, period. Favre had just put the Packers ahead. He slips. He looks like he's falling down. He keeps his balance. 49ers win the game, and I think that really did a lot for Steve Young's ability to be considered a clutch performer. 1988, 49ers are playing the Vikings. Joe is hurt. Steve's at quarterback. 2 minutes to play in the game. 49ers are down by 4 points, and he takes off on a run that is still the best run by a quarterback I have ever seen in pro football history.
Remember those old New York Life commercials that they used to have where the guy would get the briefcase and he'd run down the field and people would be diving after him and arms would be flailing and legs? That's kind of what Steve Young looks like. You know, you never know what he's going to do with the ball. He's just running down the field and people just seem to be missing, and all of a sudden he's in the end zone. It's kind of a crazy thing. It's fun to watch. It's not fun to block for, but it's fun to watch.
Opponents still talk about chasing a quarterback who could outrun linebackers and outthink coordinators. They watched Young extend plays, then strike deep like Joe Montana before him, yet with a fearless edge all his own. Legends say that mix of brains, speed, and heart made defenses lose sleep.
What was most striking about Steve, to me, was he's very, very bright. I mean, very bright. You know, he went to law school. I don't think he's ever practiced law. He can do whatever he wants. I always thought he would be the governor of Utah. While I was with him at BYU, we would go into Georgia. Steve threw 6 interceptions that day. Afterwards, I remember talking to him and saying, "Hey, man, we got to fix this, or I'm going to be, you know, I've got little kids and you got to take care of me here." And then he led the nation in total offense, and he'd have these remarkable games running and passing. And I thought, in my opinion, could have won the Heisman Trophy. There's a side of him, like a lot of really bright guys, that he really thinks he knows how to do it better than his coach does. But he's smart enough to know this is the way I have to do it to be successful. To Steve's credit, when it came his time to play, he was ready. The greatest play I ever saw him make, and one of the great offensive plays I've ever seen in my life, was a run against the Vikings. The Vikings are winning the game with very little time left on the clock. Joe was hurt, Steve was playing, and we call a little 3-step drop. He finally makes a 65-yard touchdown run, and we win the game. And during the course of the run, I stand up, and I am punching the plexiglass window, and I break my hand. I'm just going, run, run. To be great, as Steve became, Hall of Fame and all that stuff, he had to discipline himself as a thrower. I can't rely on using my legs to get out of this all the time. And with Steve, you know, you coach him, but he kind of figured these things out for himself.
Right there, with him being the only quarterback on there, come on now. Best run-pass quarterback ever, in my opinion. You can have your Cam Newtons, you can have your Russell Wilsons. I remember there was one play where his helmet came off, and he's still running with his helmet off. Most guys, most quarterbacks, they're just going to go ahead and just slide, take a knee, dive down. But that right there, to me, always showed his grit, his toughness.
His comebacks were more frantic. He was kind of a crazy man out there. And those wild eyes and screaming at his teammates. You'll never see a quarterback make a scramble like that, maybe ever again, because nobody's as crazy as Young. Steve did it more with like blood and guts. He was a tough guy. And there is a very memorable image of him crawling off the field. I thought he was going to die. Seriously, Steve Young's going to die in the Silver Dome right here, and we're going to have to just carry on with the game. And what does he do? He comes running back into the huddle. You could see the teammates get lifted up by his toughness, and he led them to a comeback win in the fourth quarter.
And when the legends finish telling their stories, they all come back to the same truth. Greatness isn't just about numbers, it's about moments. Steve Young gave the game moments of courage, brilliance, and quiet leadership that still echo through the halls of the San Francisco 49ers. From chasing the shadow of Joe Montana to carving his own legacy, Young showed what belief, discipline, and heart can build. And on nights like Super Bowl XXIX, he didn't just win, he inspired a generation of quarterbacks to dream bigger. So when NFL legends speak about toughness, intelligence, and class in one name, they say Steve Young, and his story will echo through football history forever.